view. You've all seen it. You're taking pictures already. Boom. Currently under construction. That is Vista Tower. I know I just made a big to-do about steel framing giving rise to skyscrapers, but Chicago's third tallest skyscraper here, Vista Tower, it's made of concrete. Poured reinforced concrete. The building is 3 separate yet completely interlocking, interwoven, poured reinforced concrete structures. The application of the curtain wall is just the exterior, floor to ceiling windows, not load-bearing walls. The curtain wall will give you a beautiful reflective look. It'll be like a mirror. It will grab the clouds and the sky and the things around you. But because the buildings all kind of wiggle and shimmy into the sky, you get different looks. You'll see shadows, you'll see the waves. The Vista Tower, 1,198 feet tall. The building is 100 stories in height. The tower was designed by a female architect who's a big deal. Her name is Jeannie Gang. Jeannie Gang is from Illinois. She went to UI. She attended Harvard. She's won awards for her work. She recently was tapped to do the $1.8 billion renovation of O'Hare Airport's international terminal. She beat out some pretty heavy hitters. When they got arrested on that level, I said that's probably the buyer sneaking up to get a sneak peek at their new unit. That's a true story. Because guess what? That makes sense. If you've got $18 million for a condo in a brand new building in downtown Chicago, you probably have 10 grand to get bailed out of Cook County Jail. Indeed. Vista Tower. Nothing to mess around with. Shifting gears, but not that much, that feature on top would have been a Zeppelin landing port if they ever used it. When they built that building, the Shriners built it to be a high-end athletic club. They thought high-end clients were going to come on their privately owned Zeppelin. And then those things didn't take off.
Yeah.
Because of the Hindenburg disaster and other catastrophes. That building today is the Hotel Intercontinental. I show that to you because you guys are clearly into this, so we're going to go deep. I'll do as much as I can. Now, straight ahead of us, we talked about the Trump Tower, 92 stories in height. It's over 1,300 feet tall. Let's go back in time, though. Keep your eyes off the glass and steel. We just talked about some really tall, bold, beautiful buildings. We're going to show you the old world, the things that were borrowed from Europe. When Chicago began to build skyscrapers, things like Spanish revivalism, Greco-Roman style architecture, French Renaissance influence, Gothic revivalism. Yes, indeed, have the cameras out. Take a picture of the 2 towers here. Welcome, welcome to the Wrigley Building. The Wrigley Building dates back to 1921 and 1924, respectively, South Tower and North Tower. The building has 250,000 white glazed terracotta tiles on it. 250,000 white glazed terracotta tiles on the exterior of this building.
It's also known as the Standard Oil Building.
Now, the Wrigley Building sits here at Michigan Avenue, the old shoreline of Lake Michigan. We call it the Dusable Bridge. The Dusable Bridge is named in honor of, guess who? Chicago's first non-native resident. He lived right here on the old shoreline. Michigan Avenue, again, for history nerds like myself. It's the old shoreline of the lake. We honor Dusable at this location. He was half French, half African, born in Haiti, educated in France, lived in New Orleans, lived here in Chicago 1777 to 1800, but he lived here while the natives lived here, and they called this onion swamp Chicagoan. Chicagoan. It means the area of bad smells. Nothing wrong with that at all. Everyone loves onions. Onions in the distance, you'll see a lovely building from 1926. This will give you more of a Wrigley vibe. That is the former Jewelers Building. The Jewelers Building was modeled after a 15th-century building. Some see it later in life, my friends. The former Jewelers Building by Glaver and Dinkelberg. You can say those names out loud. Glaver and Dinkelberg. Notice the fanciful base of the building. The base lines are lovely. Jump to the top of the building, the cornice. Those cornice lines, very nice. A base, a shaft, a cornice. It's complete without a picture of the Marina City Towers. Now, the Marina City Towers are affectionately known as the corncob buildings. The corncob buildings are made of concrete, 60 stories apiece, built in the 1960s. These things are a trip, my man. Different restaurants, you got the yachts and boats beneath in the marina. Everyone wave for that family at Dick's Last Resort. Look at this. Hey, how are ya? See how great that was? Limestone building there features verticality, geometric shapes. Notice the big setback on top. Now, Art Deco like that one there, captured the attitudes of people right along. We are fortunate because right now you are seeing what's called art on the mart. Every night, yeah, everyone loves it, from 8:30 p.m. to 11 p.m., art on the mart. Now this is also an Art Deco style building. Notice the ribbon windows, the verticality. They draw your eye upward. They do that with what are called spandrels. Spandrels are the dark panels that you'll see above and below the windows. The spandrels are dark. They contrast against the limestone, thus pulling your eyes upward. Elegant setbacks with Art Deco. The setbacks on top were due to zoning laws. In 1923, Chicago passed laws that told developers, once you build to a certain height, you've got to reduce the mass of your building on top so more sunlight comes into the city streets. Neat to see how laws dictate style. Art Deco buildings aren't void of history, they have historical accents. See the heads that face the mart here? Those were commissioned by Joseph P. Kennedy when he owned the Merchandise Mart, the Princes of Merchandise. Aaron Montgomery Ward, Huntington Hartford, Marshall Field, Frank Woolworth, Edward Filene is up there. The building was paid for by Marshall Field and was designed by the same firm that did the Wrigley. It was Graham, Anderson, Probst, and White. Look to your left beneath the truck. See those lights? Those are the projectors that are casting the art on the mart. Pretty awesome stuff. Glad you saw that. That's the world's largest permanent outdoor art projection installation. Long ago. Already at it again. This will be the tallest office building built in the downtown loop in the last 30 years. Welcome to 110 North Wacker Drive. 110 North Wacker Drive has a 45-foot wide Riverwalk, more V-shaped supports that hold the building. See how this one also hangs over the Riverwalk? They all do that, right? Because you have to have it, but you've only got so much space for your building. Riverwalk, supports, building, boom, there you go. Creases, folds, seams, the verticality, the shadows, the texture you get, that's something new. For this year specifically, other firms are doing that stuff. Moving right along, glance to the right, you'll see Art Deco. Glance to the left, you'll see Art Deco. The one to the right-hand side looks like the Sphinx. It's got paws right and left-hand side. That is the Daily News building from 1929 by Halliburton and Root. Ribbon windows, verticality, geometric shapes. Why Neo-Egyptianism? They found King Tut's tomb in 1922. Kick it left-hand side. Here's a throne-shaped building. That's, again, Art Deco from the same gosh darn year, 1929. The Civic Opera building by Graham, Anderson, Probst, and White. We call that building Insill's throne. The guy who paid for the opera building, his name was Samuel Insill. Insill was often described as being a very kingly fellow. He was a real estate utilities manager in Mies van der Rohe's IBM building earlier by the Trump. But in the in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, they were building these black boxes for corporate America. It's modernism. Mies van der Rohe's the father of modernism. He was from Germany. We call these the Miesian black boxes. Miesian black box architecture. Here's the neat thing. Corporations, what they want. They want an office space. They don't need columns. They don't even want stone buildings. That's from the past. They want in the future. These were the buildings of the future. This is by James DeStefano. You heard his name earlier by that beautiful Greco-Roman column that I said was tipping its hat to the Parthenon in Athens, Greece. That was from 1992. This is again from 83. The bend in the building, following the bend in the river, that is contextual. To our left-hand side is an enormous barge carrying a lot of material. Get a load of that badge. And the pilot house there, they're on hydraulics. He or she will go up or down for a better view. And that barge is headed to what's called Goose Island. It's where the beer name gets its company. It's where the beer company gets its name from. Wow. Goose Island is an industrial. Now I'll bring you back in time. The building to our right-hand side, you'll hear it being worked on right now. Welcome to the former main Chicago post office. They used this building for the Batcave scenes in the Batman film The Dark Knight. They also filmed the bank robbery scene at the beginning of The Dark Knight in the former main Chicago post office. This thing has over 2 million square feet of space. It's a remnant from the Daniel Burnham plan of Chicago, published 1909. Burnham envisioned expressways going through buildings. You'll see that right here. Congress Parkway goes right through the old post office. He envisioned things like Buckingham Fountain, Navy Pier, the grid system. He envisioned things like Union Station, and here, the old post office. Millions of parcels shipped out of this place. dozens of people required to sort mail by hand back in the day here on the Rust Belt, along the Rust Belt. So they dug this channel early 20th century. It's 1.5 miles in length. The landfill that filled in the South Branch, well, that became a rail yard. The rail yards were abandoned in the 70s. You'll see brand new landscaping, brand new Riverwalks. You'll see brand new buildings over here at the South Bank. And where you see the young couple walking along there, that limestone they're walking on, that is the limestone that they dug out of the rail yard. When they dismantled what was in the earth from the rail yard, they repurposed all that stone for the landscaping. Yay! That's right. As that lovely 28-foot center console cruises by slowly in the darkness. And this one here might look unusually familiar to you. Remember the Marina City Towers that I called the Corn Cob buildings? They were built by Bertrand Goldberg. Goldberg actually was a student of Mies van der Rohe. He didn't like that glass box, right? He believed in circles. River City here. River City was built in the 1980s. There's over 400 condos up there. They're being converted back to apartments. Yeah, I coined a phrase last week in Chicago. No condo is safe in Chicago. Pretty incredible down here, eh? So the railroad bridges here. Our bridges are known as, yes, drawbridges, swing bridges, lift bridges. These are also known by their technology. They're borrowed from the French. Bascule trunnion bridges. Bascule could mean seesaw or teeter-totter. The weight drops down and all operates on a central pin or a pivot point, pulling the leaf up as you see. Now the one horizontal here above your head, this is the newer one they built when they dug this channel. The one that was vertical there behind you, that was the original bridge when the South Branch was over yonder. Does that make sense? They dismantled the old one, rebuilt it right next to the new one. Hooray! Those are wicked impressive bridges. Don't call me Junior. So with all that chit-chat about bascule trunnion bridges, drawbridges, lift bridges, Chicago bridges, here's a different variety of bridge. Look at that. That's called a vertical lift bridge. And this one opens all the time. Boaters will come from the rivers down south all the time, and this one will open up for them. But if you want to cross through those bascule trunnion bridges downtown, and you're a sailor, Wednesdays and Saturdays, beginning and end of boat season. Pennsylvania Railroad tracks. So the weights to our left, I mean, look at those things, right? And they would just slip right down beneath, just like the neighbor. The very, very tall building ahead of us, the black one, the white antenna, that is the Willis Tower, tallest in Chicago. Now, I will call it Willis only once, as to not confuse you unnecessarily, but nobody calls it that. Those are actually fighting words. We call it the Sears Tower. See? Yeah, there you go, yeah. Sears Tower, 1,451 feet tall, 110 stories in height. It can sway up to 18 inches in either direction, no structural damage. The building has 28 acres of black aluminum on the facade. They installed over 16,000 windows. There's enough concrete in the foundation of the Sears Tower to build an 8-lane highway for 5 miles. The building essentially could be considered modernism on steroids. The building's appearance was inspired by a soft pack of cigarettes. That's right, delicious and deadly, the Sears Tower. Bruce Graham built the building alongside an ingenious engineer from Bangladesh named Dr. Fazlur Khan. And it was Fazlur Khan who came up with this. They essentially took 9 Mesian boxes, the medium they were using in the 50s and 60s, put them together in a 3x3 configuration, then pulled the boxes into towers of various heights. Only 2 of the 9 bundle tubes, as they're known, go all the way to the 110th floor, all the way to the top, which is 1,451 feet tall. Now, the Sears Tower was the tallest on the planet from 1974 to 1996. Right now, it's the 20th tallest building on the planet, so don't mention that. It's the second tallest building in the Western Hemisphere. Second to One World Trade Center in Manhattan by David Child. Yeah, wow, they leased the naming rights back in 2009. Yeah. They occupied 3 of the 110 floors in the building. That's Willis, W-I-L-L-I-S. Pronounced Sears. Winter lasts 14 years in Chicago. And as the sounds of downtown pick back up as we return into the second city, feast your eyes on the beautiful Art Deco stylings of the Chicago Board of Trade. The statue out there in the distance on top of the CBOT, her name is Ceres. She is the Roman goddess of grain. She pays tribute to the fact that the Chicago Board of Trade originally was a grains exchange. Verticality, limestone, elegant setbacks, very handsomely illuminated indeed. That one there is 45 stories tall, designed by Halliburton and Root. The CBOT was the tallest building in Chicago when it opened up in 1930. It's a mind-melting 45 stories tall. Now here's the expressway envisioned by Burnham going through the old post office. Talked about that. And relatively peaceful and quiet here in the West Loop as well. The downtown commute obviously over. You'll see a few people sauntering in and out of Ogilvy and Union Station. This guy left the office late. That's Alan 2. And over here you have the Riverwalk where it begins, a 1.25 mile trek of awesomeness. You got art on the Mart, of course, going on. That's spectacular. And you can see Upper and Lower Wacker Drive there to our right-hand side. The building to our right. Oh my goodness. Folks in Chicago, this is one of their favorites. They'll say to you, they'll say, I love the Curvy glass building at Wolf Point. It's from 1983. So it was like a time when they were climbing out of the box world into the world of contextualism. The bend in the building follows the river. Amazing stuff. Remember the Crown Building by the Sears, the neighbor of the Sears, 311 South Wacker? That's from the 90s by Cohn, Pedersen, and Fox. They built this one again in the 80s. Polished marble and granite there at the base. That polished marble and granite comes from Vermont. Blue and green glass, mimicking the blue sky and green river it reflects. And folks, the most important thing you should know about 333 West Wacker Drive there, that building served as Ferris Bueller's dad's office. In the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which is the greatest film ever made in the history of cinema. I don't know why you're laughing. No, I am being facetious. It's tied for first with the Blues Brothers. Right? I mean, yeah, right? Preach. Very inspiring, very motivational. Thank you. Yeah, I shall. And over here, my friends, we got the merchandise mart. Again, I know y'all are loving it. Enjoy art on the Mart here. We'll see what remains of the crowds that are kind of hanging out, checking this stuff out. Look at the view we got here. This is great, right? The main branch looking upriver to the east. Now, as much as I want you to engage in the brand new Riverwalk, can you all look at Upper Wacker Drive there? See how you go back in time when you go to Upper Wacker? From the Burnham plan, that's all modeled after the River Seine in Paris, France. I'll concede to you quickly. It pales in comparison, of course, to the beauty of the River Seine, but the obelisks, the light fixtures, the railings, all that you see there, the urns, all modeled after Paris. These bridges are borrowed from the French. The French are the United States' oldest allies. They were the first cats to come through here of a European variety. Buckingham Fountain and the regimented gardens at Grant Park are all modeled after Versailles. And that's all Daniel Burnham. Hooray! So not really a mad dash to get out towards the fireworks, but you'll notice a lot of the boaters will begin to converge on this particular channel. They'll jockey for position as we head out there. You'll see dozens and dozens of beautiful boats of all shapes and sizes. We'll enjoy the fireworks in a little bit here, but just now I do want to bring you to the forward left-hand side because it is so lovely. That warehouse there is from 1914. If Frank Lloyd Wright homes became warehouses on the Chicago River, they'd look like that. Wait a tick, what do you mean? Frank Lloyd Wright homes, prairie style, flat roofs that hang over the edge to hug the earth, grasses, grains, and weeds done as stained glass windows. Okay, so George Nimmons, a man known for building warehouses in Chicago, built over 13 of them, built this one in 1914. So what do you mean prairie style, Dave? I don't get it. a very aggressive line, horizontal, that slashes through the otherwise vertical brick columns. On top of the clock tower, you'll see a flat roof which hangs over the edge. Also, notice, and no one knows this, on top of the brick columns, you just notice the terracotta tiles, how they were arranged to look like grasses, grains, or wheats. Know what that's some subtlety, that's some beauty right there. Not everyone gets it, but if you dig the Frank Lloyd Wright homes, you dig Prairie style, that warehouse has got it going on, man. And again, it's from 1914. I love it. If later on in life you're in the Streeterville neighborhood, Streeterville, making your way to the Gold Coast, to Oak Street Beach, to North Avenue Beach, when you're in Streeterville, look for the former Furniture Mart. The Furniture Mart is by Nimitz as well. It's pretty amazing. I'm making you all go find warehouses from the early 20th century. That's awesome. Don't go stare at the bean all day. That's nonsense. Greek revivalism. Notice the Corinthian-style Roman columns there at the base and the cornice. The feature on top in the middle is called a cupola. It's a Greco-Romanesque temple. Remember that silly boat, the Fort Dearborn? That's where it used to sit. Fort Dearborn was built in 1803, right there. And then just above these people here on the right, hi guys, a bridge house. That bridge house there is a museum. It's called the Bridge House Museum. Tribune Tower. Tribune Tower there has not been empty like this since it was built in 1924. The building is Art Deco, but it has Gothic revivalism on top. Those flying buttresses, very unusual to be on top of an Art Deco structure, but there it is. The building bought last year for $200 million. They're turning it into condos. So not all condos are doomed in Chicago, but those condos there will run you from $700,000 to over $7 million. The condo developments being built in Chicago, they're built for the quote-unquote 1%. The luxury rentals are built for anybody who can thrive in a big city. So that is the stark difference in the different brands. Not from the early 20th century. It reminds you of Art Deco, right? Yeah, they're echoing that old style. In fact, that's called Echo Deco. Straight up, bro. Echo Deco, real thing. The verticality, the ribbon windows, the elegant setbacks, even has flying buttresses halfway up, which are a tip of the hat to the buttresses that Raymond Hood put on top of the Tribune. Guess who did 30 Rock in Manhattan? Raymond Hood. This building is referencing one that Raymond Hood worked on a block away, and one that is 1,137 feet away in New York City.